Hi guys, Andrew and Andy. You may have seen the unboxing and may have been a bit confused to my unboxing of the Nokia Lumia 1520. Why is Andrew and Andy unboxing a Windows phone, you might be asking yourselves. Really is out of curiosity. I don't think you can really appreciate what Android gives you unless you know what the alternatives are. So thanks to clove.co.uk for lending me this Nokia Lumia 1520 so I can really explore Windows Phone and Nokia really. In this video I won't talk a lot about the actual operating system. I've done a separate video on my view on that and how it is. So this one I will try and talk more about the actual phone itself. I'm sure I will touch in and out of some Windows Phone bits, but do look at the other video on Windows Phone if you're more interested in the actual software. This will try and be about the hardware. Okay, let's get on with it. So I think it's quite a simple design, the 1520. I guess you could say it's classy. It's quite a squared design. I don't know if they were just trying to avoid being sued by Apple, but the corners are quite squared off, although the screen, I don't know how well you see that. The screen itself is quite rounded within the squared corner, which I think is a little bit weird. I personally, I would prefer if they'd been the same angle, but maybe I'm just being very, very fussy. So front-facing camera, obviously earpiece, microphone down the bottom, the 3 capacitive buttons. Now also all the actual physical buttons are down the right hand side. They don't look to take a lot of space up the right hand side, but the amount of times that I tried to pick the phone up and was pressing a button, you know, if the buttons had been all located a bit higher and on both sides perhaps, which is normally how I've experienced phones, that's almost never an issue. You know, you pick the phone up and as it is there, pressing the power button. You know, I just found it very hard not to press a button when I was picking the phone up. They're also very low profile, maybe too low profile. So if it's on a desk, I felt I had to kind of reach round a bit, almost getting under the phone to actually press the button. Maybe that's just me. I've got big hands, big fingers, maybe, but a little bit too low profile perhaps. Helps with the design, I suppose, if it will focus. So it's a nice simple design. There you go. It feels generally quite good in the hand. The materials feels good. It feels like a quality product. The lens does stick out. Again, those that have watched my videos before might know that I don't particularly like that. Not that I'm worried. A lot of people worry that, oh, the lens is touching the desk, it's going to scratch. Personally, I've never had that happen. I do put my phone on a desk quite often, but I like to operate it laying on a desk, and this does mean that it rocks back and forth quite a lot, even down at the base where the keyboard is. Well, not too bad there, I suppose, but might not bother you at all, just something that annoys me a little. The phone itself weighs 209 grams, which is not that different to the Oppo N1, but it doesn't really feel quite as bulky as the N1. Perhaps because I use the Oppo in its case almost all the time, and that put another 50 grams or so and a bit of width on the device. So as I think I mentioned, it does actually feels quite nice in the hand. You do need to be aware of the size. So when I actually asked for this, I didn't realise it was a 6-inch device. Works out quite nicely because my daily driver the last sort of month has been a Note 3, and before that the Oppo N1 for a week or two, which have been 5.7 inch and 5.9 inch. So I'm into the big screens, so it does work quite well. So here it is, into the pocket. Jeans pocket now. I'm quite a big chap, quite big pockets. You can see it just poking out the top there, and it's a bit touch and go when you sit down, but it does fit in a pocket. But yeah, you have to be aware that it's that kind of size. You're not necessarily going to be operate one. You know, I mean, I've got relatively big hands, but I can't even reach across unless I change my grip. But I think you do get used to just using a different grip where the phone kind of rests on your hand, and that means you can reach to most parts. But you know, you must be aware really how big this thing is. One of the biggest phones you're going to see. The speaker itself at the bottom, well, I'm going to have to find something that I can demo the speaker with now. Right, I'm not entirely sure what it's going to play, but let's tap play me and see what happens. So I don't know how well that comes out on the video, but that's a really quite loud and clear speaker. I can't remember if I've done the speaker test on this just yet, but I'll double check and I'll make sure I get one done, and we'll get a reading. Have a look on my other videos to see that. As you saw, actually, I quite like that's quite nicely presented, full screen album art and that sort of thing. It's very nice. So the hardware itself, it runs on what's kind of almost the standard these days, Snapdragon 800 and the Adreno 330 graphics processing unit. The screen, as I think I mentioned, is a 6-inch IPS LCD, 1920 by 1080, so it's a proper full 1080p display. That comes to 367 pixels per inch. The Note 3 is 386 pixels per inch, and the iPhone 5S is 326 pixels per inch. Now, if you can really tell the difference between the three, I'm not entirely sure. When you get up over 300, I'm really not sure it makes that much difference. It is worth pointing out it takes a nano SIM, so even small. You know, most phones, well, maybe iPhones use nano, I think, but most phones these days use a micro SIM. Nano SIM goes even one step further. So I did have to get myself a nano SIM cutter off Amazon for, I think it was about £2, really not much, and it came with adapters as well, so you can then still use, if you do cut it down and change your mind, you can still use your adapters to put it back into, as I have. It's gone back into my Note 3, so you can barely even tell there's an adapter in there. It also has a slot for a micro SD card just next to it. Both of them you use the little tool to open, like so. This is the SIM bay. I like how it springs out. It's proper spring loaded. The nano SIM tucks in very tightly there, and then the micro SD likewise spring loaded. Micro SD card goes in the top there. So a bit of a noise, the nano SIM, but like I say, for a couple of £1 you get the adapters and the punch. The camera is one thing I was very much looking forward to using, and I wouldn't suggest that it by any way let me down. It was a very good camera. If I'll show you a few pictures that I took with it. Yeah, it's a pretty good picture, I would say. Yeah, took some action shots. Now, the one thing I think it kind of stretches. I don't know why. Just on the left side, maybe on the right. Maybe it's because it's trying to do such a kind of wide-angle photo. I just think it stretches things a little bit at the edges, which I thought a little odd. Well, there's another one that gives a good example of that. Somewhere back here. This one. So that looks a little bit like things are stretched slightly there. I'm not quite sure why. But generally, yeah, I thought it produced very good results. The video generally was good, but I was quite surprised how it struggled in low light. I have done a video comparison with the Note 3. You know, I'll just go and have a look at that, and you perhaps see what I mean. It was very grainy. There was a lot of noise. When it was a bit dark, and it really struggled. When you take a photo, it produces two different versions as well, like a regular version and then a pro version. The pro one is the 20 megapixel version, and the regular one, actually I forget how many megapixels it was, but it's obviously a smaller version, which I figure is quite handy if you're going to then share them to Facebook or Twitter. You don't need a big 20 megapixel picture, so that was pretty useful, I suppose, if you need that sort of thing. The battery is do you know what, it's just been doing this in the other video that I made, and this really annoyed me. It seems to, so why did that not move then? That was clearly a sideways swipe. So in my other video about the operating system, I'm not going to go into detail of the operating system because I have done a separate video, as I mentioned, but if you watch that, you'll see the amount of times that I thought I was sliding up or down, you know, I was scrolling, and it thought I was selecting something. Really annoyed me, really was getting on my nerves. It seems to be being good again at the moment. So the battery, as I was saying, 3400 milliamp hours battery, which is very big sized, one of the biggest you'll find, and it generally performed very well. So this was last plugged in on Monday. Now, granted, since then, since I unplugged it, I've gone back to my Note 3. Had to, really, some certain things I needed. So it has been sat on my desk for about 4 days. Hard, I don't think I've even touched it. So it's lasted 4 or 5 days. It's now Friday. It's only 84%. And it's only since I've started using it, doing videos again, that the battery started coming down. Now, generally, the standby has been really, really good. I think that's kind of Windows-based reasoning rather than hardware-based. In that I think Windows shuts everything down. When the screen goes off, it stops everything, which can be quite annoying. As I mentioned in my other video, when I'm trying to upload a Facebook photo and I turn the screen off and put the phone down, and then I turn it back and it says, "Oh, you turned it off, so we stopped." Why? Why would you do that? Very annoying. But that's what I think helps. You know, I can go through a day's work and it's still been 90% at the end of the day after 8 or 9 hours. Because a lot of the time when I'm working, I can't use my phone. So it only gets turned on now, then lunch break perhaps, and a couple of times when I'm working. So it really does use very little power when the screen's off. The alternative, when I used this device to use the sat nav to find my way around to various different house viewings in the area, it used a lot more battery, and actually by the end of the day, I was only using the sort of sat nav for kind of an hour and a half maybe. Well, not even. Probably the actual amount of time I was using the sat nav was about 15 minutes perhaps. It was only like little dispersions of it. But that one day, I was at about 40% by the end of the day, 15 hours, which very different to other days where I'd still be in probably the high 70s at the end of the day. I think if you were a minimal user, you would easily get by for 3 days using the 1520. So, all in all, what did I think of the Nokia Lumia 1520? I think it's a very good phone. I think the hardware is very good. I did like the camera. It feels good. It feels like a premium quality device. I personally like the size. That'll probably be a deal breaker. Unfortunately, I think Windows just isn't where it needs to be at the moment. Watch my other video for a bit more thought on that, but it's just, you know, lacking the app support still. There's a few annoyances within the operating system for me. The one downside actually of the phone itself, I found the screen a little too sensitive. So as you will have seen in some of my videos, I'm trying to control it and it just keeps selecting things when I'm trying to swipe, stuff like that. But you know, having the actual camera button, that was handy on the day out that I had on my bike. It was really handy to be able to keep my glove on, press that, and then just take pictures with my gloves on. All round, very nice bit of hardware. You know, if it had Android on there, would I be tempted to buy something like this? Yeah, I think I probably would. I think it challenges things like the Note 3. The battery life, fantastic. The camera, great. The screen, it looked nice and clear, good vibrant colours. So for me, unfortunately, it's just Windows that really lets the device down. And again, to me, it reinforces, and personally, I think Nokia made a mistake in partnering with Windows as they did. If they'd had some Android devices, I think they'd have sold really well and would be giving Samsung a run for their money. So, all in all, great device. If you like Windows OS, if you're a fan of Windows OS, if you're bought into their ecosystem, I would recommend it. And if you can deal with the size of the phone, it's all around, it's a very good device. So, there you go. My name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.